Start your day the joyful way. It's your weekday morning talk show inviting you to start your day with a triple shot of good vibes. And now here's your host, the queen of joy herself, Jessica Dugas. Good Friday morning, everybody. You know, it's interesting with Fridays because Fridays meant a lot more to me before I was an entrepreneur. That was like the end of the week. And, but now it's like I can end my week however I want. Thank you very much. So it's nice. I'm your host, Jessica Dugas. Super excited to be here with you for another episode today. We are completing our summer reading series coming up here shortly. We have Michael Whitehouse here today, who is known as a guy who knows the guy, who knows the guy, or a guy. And I'm really excited to have him here because the story of how we met is one of the things that fascinates me because he lives in the town where I grew up and I'm now returning and we've never met. When we met through someone, I think in Germany or something like that. It's the weirdest thing, but that's how networking works. And that's how one of the things that he specializes in is networking. And so really excited to talk about him and his book and also how, certain things like neurodiversity are actually superpowers. So I can't wait to dig into that with him here shortly. If you are joining us live or on the replay, I would love for you to head over to the comment section, say hello, let us know what is bringing you joy today. I want to give a quick shout out to all of our supporters down there at the bottom, and you can join our community and learn about supporting the Breakthrough Show Network by going to bit.ly/Discord Breakthrough. I would love to have you over there in our little community home on the web. And I love Discord. I have to shout out to them because they're always making little changes, which is really nice to make the platform even better. And one of the reasons I love them is I am an easily squirreled person. Okay. I will go to, Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube or any of them, Twitter, TikTok, all of them. And next thing you know, I'm watching videos of squirrels running around the yard, and it's horrible. But I love Discord because when you go there, you only see what you're there for. If you are invited to the Breakthrough Show server, you only see the Breakthrough Show unless you join another server. So you only see what you see. There's no news feed. There's no timeline. And I appreciate that because it minimizes the squirrels. And so we're here for that. What's bringing me joy today? We are officially at the 3-week mark until my feet are on the Connecticut soil. We close on our house here the 11th of July. And then I'm getting a little choked up here. The time goes by so quickly. We are closing on the 11th, packing up the truck on the 12th, leaving on the 13th, and we'll be up there for the 15th. I like to take my time on the drive because I'm going to see lots of people. I'm really excited about that. It's literally going to be the Breakthrough Show Network tour on the way up, which I'm thrilled about because look, I've been working online since 2015 and it's very rare that I get to actually meet people in person. And so I'm thrilled to do that. Super excited about everybody I'm going to get to see. So I'm getting a little like the sleep is lessening, getting a little excited over here, but I'm thrilled about that. But I'm working right up until the day, we have on July 6th, all day, literally from 7 in the morning until 8 at night. Every single show that you love from the Breakthrough Show Network is having an episode on that day. Why? Because it's the Breakthrough Show's fourth birthday. Really excited about that. So we decided, I asked the other hosts, I said, what should we do to make this fun? And it's going to be a whole day thing. So all day long, every single show that you love from the network is going to have an episode. And we are all guesting on each other's shows, which is going to be a lot of fun. Um, what else is going on? Learning in Silence had another episode yesterday. So good. As we know, Juju teamed up with Mandy, and it was amazing. They talked about healing after a relationship with narcissists, and it was just a really, really great, another deep episode as well. So they did a great job, and congratulations to them on another awesome episode. What else is happening around here? Oh, I was going to tell you. So I need to know this. This is your, you get to vote this morning. It is National Pralines Day. Okay. I love praline. So we know, if you don't know what praline is, it's a nut, and it has some kind of sugar syrup, and it hardens, and it's candy. Okay. I love them. But some people, I've always called them pralines, but then when I went down south, they call them pralines. So I need to know if you put A in the comments if you call them pralines, or B if you call them pralines. But I am the first one to admit when I may be doing something wrong, except pecan. It's always going to be pecan, always has been pecan, and you pecan people are in the wrong show. But pralines, apparently, the powder made by grinding up sugar-coated nuts is called praline. This is an ingredient in many types of cakes, pastries, and ice creams. Now, I know the candy as praline, but perhaps it's both. So maybe it's the candy is praline and the praline is this other thing they're talking about that you put in cakes, pastries, and ice creams. So let me know. Are you A, praline, or B, praline? Okay, I see lots of A's happening, so I feel better about myself now. Let's check in with the comments and see who's joining us this morning. We have Mandy here today. Namaste. Happy Friday to you. Jason's here. Jason, we've missed you. How are you today? How have you been enjoying your summer program? Let me know. Jason said, what brings me joy is just being myself. And I love that. And I love that about you, Jason. I always appreciate you sharing when you come on in the mornings. Miss Angelique, or is this Donnell? Which one is it? Divine DNA is in the house this morning. Good morning. Good morning. Mandy said, what's bringing me joy is that the sun is shining bright, and I got to see 4 planets this morning align with the sun. Now, see, I heard about that. Too late. I literally ran out on my back porch. I did get to see a couple, but I didn't get to see the whole line. There was a whole line of planets and the moon and all of that lined up together that happened this morning before dawn. And you know I'm up early, but I didn't know until it was too late. So Mandy can't wait for the next network's birthday. Yes, it's going to be so much fun. I can't wait. So here we go. A. Marlene, good morning and welcome. A. Jason, A. Rosemary, good morning. Good to see you. Being alive is what brings me joy. I love it. I love it. That's all. That to me is the best reason, because then you get to experience being alive. You get to experience all the other things. Rosemary said A too. Listen, I thank you people for making me feel better this morning. Grand Rising. It's Angelique. Okay. Good morning, Angelique. Good to see you. Yes, I'm so glad. It was really pretty when I went out, and it was early. And then I took a little bit of a video and I tried to upload it to TikTok, but the sound was really weird. It was fine. And then when I put it on TikTok, the sound was weird. So the birds sounded robotic and it was horrifying. So I decided to not post it. Anyway, you guys, I'm really excited to continue our summer reading series this morning. We've got Michael Whitehouse hanging out in the green room, enjoying the coffee and donuts, and we are going to take our quick break, and we'll be right back to introduce Michael. Don't go anywhere.
Breakthroughs are about more than you might think. They're about discovering who you are, digging deep, reaching to the core of your soul. They're about healing yourself, understanding your beliefs, creating a ripple effect. And it's not just those initial moments that matter. It's about using them to bring more joy into our own lives and the lives of others. It's about having fun, letting loose, enjoying every moment life has to offer. It's about finding a safe space. It's about creating connection. Join us each and every day for exclusive programming, special events, and a community to call home, where we invite you to explore, change the way you look at and live your life, and go beyond the breakthrough. So we ask you, are you ready? We'll see you online at thebreakthroughshow.com.
Welcome back to Project Joy Live. I'm your host, Jessica Dugas. Today is Friday, June 24th, 2022. I'm excited to continue our summer reading series today. Our guest is a networker, a connector, a speaker, and he's known as the guy who knows a guy. And I'm excited to know this guy, and I'm excited to have him here today. And that's also the name of his book, which we'll be discussing as well. So without further ado, let's bring Michael Whitehouse onto the show. Good morning, Michael. It's good to have you here today.
Good morning. It's good to be here.
Yes, and I love, so I always love when I'm joined by someone who has that radio voice as well, which you have. Were you ever on the radio, Michael?
I was on a 1,000-watt local station in southwest Rhode Island, which you may know, WBLQ. I had a show called Open for Business, where I'd interview local business people. Lasted for about 6 months or so. And then I think I changed businesses. I don't know. Stopped doing it. But it was always interesting because I never knew if the guest was showing up until they walked through the door. And it was live radio. So if the guest did not walk through the door, I had 44 minutes of live airtime to fill, which today I'd be like, no problem. I'll just do a talk on networking or something. But back then I was like, oh my God, I hope they show up. 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 Yeah. And if you're not used to it, filling airtime is much harder than you think because you can't stop talking. You can't have 100%. More than like 20 seconds of silence. You get fined by the FCC.
100%. And it's, I'm sure it's challenging, but I always loved radio. I think, that's part of what inspired me with this show because I just loved getting up in the morning, listening to a morning show, getting ready for work, all of that stuff. And so I said, well, I can do that too. And so now I just do it. Here we go. I'm also excited because I'm going to be where you are in 3 weeks.
Neat. Like in my house?
No.
I'll have my wife. Let's clean up a bit, but sure, come on over.
But I'm excited because I'd love to get together at some point, and of course we'll be moving up there, so there will be time. But I'm thrilled about that because I need to be back home. Have you ever? Now you live in Groton now, but you were in another place at one time in Connecticut, right?
I was in Western Connecticut. Well, so I like to say I moved from Massachusetts to Connecticut in 2011. Got to Groton in 2014. Nothing interesting happened in between. It basically took me 3 years to get from where I was in Massachusetts to the place where the story actually starts. Yeah. Because everything in that intervening 3 years was various stories, not like secrets. It's kind of like off. If it was a show, it'd be like, why'd you cover this stuff? This doesn't even fit the narrative at all. It doesn't fit the storyline. Doesn't fit in. So it's like I lived in Massachusetts, yada yada. I was in Groton in 2014.
That's it. I mean, I feel kind of similar to that in some way, but I felt like for me, like I grew up in Groton my whole life until I was 19 or 20. And then I feel like I almost had to go away in order to come back. And so it'll be an interesting experience. I've been reconnecting with a lot of my old friends and it's going to be fun. It'll be an adventure. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But I love it. You are known as the guy who knows a guy. How did you get that title? Tell the people.
I wrote a book, and then the book expanded to be me. So in 2014, I moved to Groton, Connecticut, knowing absolutely nobody. And I had a concept of a business I wanted to start. I knew I needed to have a network to do that. I had the vague concepts of what networking was. I'd read How to Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi. I'd been involved in BNI, although I hadn't joined one. I read some of the books. I was in that universe. So I knew where networking happened, if not how. So I started attending every networking event I could find. Every networking event I could find. Business after hours, business before hours, business during hours, ribbon cuttings, line cuttings, hair cuttings. I would have shown up for the opening of an envelope. If there were people gathered, I was going to be there. In the Bible, Jesus says, where 2 or 3 people are gathered in my name, I am there. Well, for me, where 2 or 3 people are gathered, I am there. I was biblical level network. So what I discovered, pure ignorance on fire, didn't know what I was doing, but just instinctively I made connections because I wanted to be useful. In retrospect, I realized it was almost kind of coming from a place of imposter syndrome, although I don't know if it's imposter syndrome if you know you actually don't have the qualifications.
Yeah.
I was just this guy taking up people's time meeting with them. So I'm like, well, I got to give you some value. Well, why don't I introduce you to someone I met earlier? And they'd be like, oh, I don't know them. And I'd be meeting, because, it's local. It's not that hard to meet the big movers and shakers in the local community. I'd be meeting the mayor and the person who runs the biggest event in town and these business owners. I'd say, oh, do you know so-and-so over there who runs this big thing? No, I don't. How do you not? You run the big event in Groton. They run the big event in New London. You're across the river from each other. You've never even heard each other's names. Okay, well, let's connect you. And I was making major connections 6 months into being there. I got to the point where, because I started my real business when the pandemic started. So I was just bouncing from job to job. But every one of those jobs I got because I knew someone who was hiring, and I just hopped into it. Like, I didn't put out applications. I didn't go on Indeed. I networked to jobs.
Right.
And I finally realized I seem to be doing something which I find easy because I know how to do it, and other people find hard. I could write it down because I started not knowing how to do it, and then I knew how to do it.
Yeah.
And so I'd been through the process. So I wrote it down and I put it in a book called The Guy Who Knows a Guy. I am pretty sure, although I don't remember, I think it was my mother's idea to name the book that. And the way that I became the guy who knows a guy instead of the author of The Guy Who Knows a Guy is I would attend Chamber of Commerce events and I would put my book in the raffle. And if you run a Chamber of Commerce event, who would you rather have at your event? The author of a book called The Guy Who Knows a Guy, or the guy who knows a guy himself? Yeah. Well, obviously you want the guy who knows a guy himself. So they started calling me that. I'd walk in, hey, it's the guy who knows a guy. Basically using my brand, which they gave me to edify their own events, which I was totally cool with.
Yeah.
But for the time that I was, pre-pandemic, I joke that I need one of those past life regression therapists to really think about the time before 2020.
Right.
It was a different life.
Right.
But I was making connections just to make connections. When I was publishing the magazine, I was able to get most of my business through networking. So I sort of monetized it that way, but not super effectively. And then the pandemic meant that magazine thing wasn't working because 75% of my sales came from in-person networking. And so that began my journey to actually become a professional networker and actually have people hire me to make connections for them and to teach them to network. But that's another much longer story.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the journey because obviously I think we can tell that there's been a lot of personal growth for you in going from what you were doing to what you're doing now. I think that's true for any of us and what we're doing. I look back at like my first episodes of my show and I'm like, yeah, don't watch that.
If you're not embarrassed by your first episode, you started too late.
That's right.
That's what Kimberly Crowe says.
But look, networking is a magical thing. And I mentioned, earlier in the show, how you and I met through somebody overseas. And then when I found out you were in Groton, I'm like, what? Nobody's in Groton.
Hey, 42,000 people are in Groton. Nobody knows any of them.
It's so funny though. Do you ever have those, like, it's a small world after all moments when you were doing this networking?
So it was interesting when 2020 happened, the pandemic happened. My first thought was, if my BNI group went online, so did everyone else's. I can travel the world through Zoom. I wasn't thinking about being a global connector. I was like, wouldn't it be neat to attend an event in Europe or in Asia I realized with the time zones, it's not neat to attend a BNI in Europe because it was 1:30 a.m. my time to attend the British BNI. Never did that again. Oh my God, I was so tired. But I attended one in Malaysia and Australia and Washington State. And, going west is easy in the morning. I attended BNI at 6 p.m. It was awesome. But I got to start making these connections around the world. And I was like, ooh, this is cool because I haven't traveled that much.
Yeah.
My network was basically, I was well connected very locally. But then, once I really got into this, geography meant nothing. But that meant just by simple probability, most people I meet are not within 100 miles of me. And until recently, I did not have a client within 1,500 miles, which I plotted on a map and realized it's like a circle around me at that radius. And I'm like, do I just smell bad and people don't want to be near me, but if they're far away, they like me? I don't know. But it's, I'll meet someone in Vancouver who introduces me to someone in England who introduces me to someone in New York, who's, and it's just a lot of, I had someone in, I think Washington State introduced me to someone in Boston. And so then I introduced her to someone in Los Angeles because geography is meaningless in this world. The only time it matters is time zones. Really, it's a little harder to talk to people in Australia because they're asleep when I'm working and I'm asleep when they're working. But I do sometimes have those coincidences, but mostly it's because out of the 2.5 billion people in the English-speaking world, 40,000 of them live here, or 250,000 live in the county, which means the chance of me meeting someone in my county is roughly 1 in 10,000. So it is kind of cool when it's like, Groton, wait a minute. Yeah. I know Groton. I think I've been introduced to all of 4 or 5 people in Connecticut.
Yeah. I love that though. I love it. What do you think is the thing that holds people back from networking? Because look, I think we all know that we're entrepreneurs. We need to do it. But there's, I watched your process even like, cause I'm on your mailing list and I got your email. We had a moment of fun with that of like, hey, I'm going to be on Project Join. I was like, that sounds like a great show. But there's people that like don't take advantage of opportunities they have like that to share what they're doing, to network with other people. Like, do you think it's just that, they have to know at this point that they should be networking, but why do you think they don't do it?
They think they can't. They think they don't have enough of a network to begin with. They're afraid to be rejected. That's part of it. They don't want to reach out to people. It's a lot of just not knowing. They don't know what they don't know, and they don't know what they do know. So the first thing comes down to a larger mindset issue that many people have been programmed to believe that they can't change things in a positive way. Change is bad, and you can't make change that is good. So change means you could lose your job, you could get a pay cut, you could get an additional bill, prices go up. Prices don't go down, they just go up. That's change, that's bad. Your boss never calls you in and says, hey, we want to double your salary, but they might call you in and say, hey, we need to lay you off.
Right.
So there's this fear of change and a lack of agency. And entrepreneurs know we have agency. My income is literally 2,000% higher than it was in December of 2021 because of an entrepreneur. And that's not unusual to have a 30% raise in 6 months or more.
Right.
That's 2,000% because my baseline in December was really low, but it's but I can control. So I'm looking at inflation and I'm like, oh, inflation's 8%. Okay, I'll just need to make sure that my income stays at, my income growth stays at 20%, and then I'll be fine.
Right.
Because that's how an entrepreneur thinks. But if you have the fixed mindset, then you don't think I can change things. Well, if you don't think I can change things, then you're not going to look to the future and say, that's where I want to be. How do I get there?
Right.
For 8 years, 10 years, I've been thinking broadly, that's where I want to be. Now I've been bumping around, wandering in the dark for a lot of those years, but it was always, let me try to do something. But for those who do know where they want to go, but simply are like, I want to network, I just don't know how, I don't have whatever. To your audience, you, the person my finger's pointing at, you have enough of a network right now to connect with, to be a connector. If you know 10 people, you can be a connector. And if you don't know 10 people, reach out to me. I'll introduce you to 10 people and you get started. But if you know 10 people, you can be a connector. And all you have to do is decide, I am a connector. And this is not an affirmation. Oh, I have $1 million. I have a great network. You just decide, I'm a connector now, because what's a connector do?
Mm-hmm.
They connect, right?
Right.
So if you're a connector, then you're looking for opportunities to connect. So when you talk to someone and they say, oh, I wish I could find a good handyman who would call me back, your response is not, yeah, don't we all? Your response is, let me see if I can find that for you.
Right.
Because you go to your other 9 friends, assuming you have the minimum 10 friends. I made up that number, but you go to your other friends and you say, hey, Jessica, do you know a handyman? Because Rosemary's looking for one. Do you know one? Hey, Jason, do you know a handyman? Because Rosemary's looking for one. Hey, Mandy, do you know a handyman? Because Rosemary's looking for one. And one of them is probably going to say, actually, I do. My brother-in-law is a handyman, and he's a really great guy, and he returns calls and whatever. Or if not, then you could start, go to the chamber website and start reaching out to people. Go to the BNI directory, start reaching out to people and say, hey, I see you're a handyman. I'd love to have a conversation with you. I actually have someone looking for a good, reliable one. Could we grab a coffee or get on a call so I can learn a bit about you, see if I'd like to introduce you?
Mm-hmm.
And then once you're on that call, you're going to ask them, who are, besides clients, of course, who are you looking to meet? And now you have another mission. And you start asking around on that one and just repeat that. And very soon people will be like, wow, you're always connecting. You make 3 connections and people are going to be like, you're always connecting people. You're such a connector. And now you're networking.
It's so true. It's so true. And truly there's almost a high that I get from it. I love to connect different people, and the beauty, I guess, of doing what you and I both do now, of being like kind of global and meeting people from all over the place, is that as people are getting back to doing more physical in-person traveling, now we can connect people as they're going to different countries and stuff as well. So we've got Brett Weiss coming back on the show on Tuesday, and he runs a foundation in Kenya. And I had introduced him a while back to Olivia Ambani, who was on the show, who lives in Kenya, and they met up last week. And I was like, oh my God, it's so in Kenya. Like, it's such a cool thing. And they made a video for me, and it was just this giddy moment. But the one thing I wanted to ask you is, you're always introducing everybody, yet it's also what you are paid for. Like, how do you sort of, like, did you ever feel like I should stop doing this for free because I'm paid for it now? Like, how does that look?
Mostly no.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's an infinite number of introductions I can theoretically make. The limiting factor is it takes a non-zero amount of time to make an introduction. I need to send an email. I need to send a Facebook message, 1, 2, 3 minutes, which, isn't that long unless you're doing 20 of them.
Right.
And that is that long. So what I have dialed it back when I'm, I'll consciously think, if I'm meeting with someone who's not a client, I'm introducing to people who are not clients, I'll make 1 or 2 introductions, not the 7 that came to mind. Because also, if I introduce you to 7 people, you're only going to follow up with 2 of them,
right?
Unless you're actively networking. So I introduce to 1 or 2 of them, and so I dial it back. The difference between what I do for people I happen to meet and what I do for my clients is, so you mentioned the neurodiversity superpowers. My neurotype is ADHD, or as I sometimes call it, ADN, attention deficit neurotype, because it's not a disorder. It's simply a different neurotype.
Yeah.
But it means I tend to forget a lot of things. And part of that is people in conversations, unless they've really, if I've talked to someone, been on their show, there's probably a few podcast hosts I've completely forgotten too. A lot of people just, so in the meeting, I try to provide as much value as I can while I'm talking to them. So while I'm talking to you, I'm going to write down a couple of names in my list to introduce. I'm going to send out that email, hopefully, if I follow up properly. And that's that. But a week later, I may, if someone says, do you remember Susie? You met with her last week. Susie, I think so. Let me check my notes. But there's a lot of conversations I forget. People will come back to me, and I love this. They'll talk to me 6 months, 12 months later, and they're like, Michael, thank you so much for that introduction to Bob. I got the job. It's going great. I'm making more money than I ever have. Thank you so much for that. And I'm like, great. Remind me again who I introduced you to. It was Bob. At what company? At that company. Right. And your name again was, but I changed their life. I don't remember it because I just make introductions.
Yeah.
So what'll happen is we'll have a meeting. I'll make a couple introductions and that's it. And even if I do remember somebody, it doesn't mean they're necessarily going to come to mind to make the connections to.
Right.
My clients pay me to be remembered all the time. So they go on the whiteboard of clients.
Yes.
And so every time I have a meeting, I'm looking at that, I glance at that board and say, okay, which of them need to meet this person? And the cool thing is, my clients are pretty awesome people. I mean, they can pay my retainer, so they're in a certain success level. And they can monetize introduction, so they're willing to pay my retainer, which means they're at a certain success level. So they're people well worth meeting. So if I meet somebody and introduce them to 1 or 2 or 3 of my clients, and then maybe refer them to a service, you should check out JVIC. You should check out this other program. Now I've had people say to me, "You've done so much for me. I don't know how I can reciprocate."
Right.
And I'll tell them, "Well, I just introduced you to 3 of my clients, and one of the programs I'm partnered with that I get affiliate commissions from, and I did that because I think you'll benefit from it. But there's something in it for me. In all those things, it's self-reciprocating.
Right.
So don't worry about it. We're good. Take the benefits, work with the people, build the relationships." So I've built it in a way that I can make those connections, and it took me a long time to get to this point.
Right.
But to the point where I can find the value in that. But I've always believed, give everything and then charge for the limiting factors. So I charge for my time, I charge for my attention, I charge for my focus, but I'll freely give advice. I'll freely give advice if you don't argue with me.
Yeah.
If someone comes to me and is like, "I need to find a job." Awesome. Here's what you need to do. If you're like, "Oh, I can't do that." All right. Have a nice day.
Yep. 100%.
Yeah. You got to pay me. Yeah. You got to hire me as a coach if you're going to argue with me.
Yeah.
I'm not messing with your mindset and pushing back and whatever. This is the recipe. It works. Follow it or don't. I can tell you in 5 minutes. I got 5 minutes for a friend to help them out and help them find a job. But I don't have the mental energy to debate with you if this is the right thing to do and the fundamentals of capitalism and if socialism. Here's how it works. Here's how you get ahead. Do it or don't. I did my part.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a real thing that happens where I can't tell you how many times somebody will ask me for advice, so I'll give it, and then they're like 8,000 excuses as to why they can't do it. And I'm like, well, then you don't really want to do it. And but if they're paying me, then I might go back and forth a little bit.
If you're paying me as a coach, and it's funny with coaching, I don't advertise myself as a coach.
Yeah.
I don't try to sell coaching. I don't pitch any. I don't pitch and I don't close. So at no time in a conversation will I tell someone why they should hire me or overcome. I don't deal with that. If they're like, "Well, that seems a little expensive," I'll be like, "Oh, I guess it is." So anyway, who can I introduce you to? And with my coaching, I don't even say I'm a coach. People say I'm a coach, and then they say, "What would it take to hire you as a coach?" And I tell them, and they say, "Okay, I'd like to do that." And I say, "Okay, I guess you can be a client." I now have 2, and I think a third one pending, coaching clients who have approached me because they're like, "You seem to know stuff. I want you to help me." And I keep raising my prices because coaching is time for money, which doesn't
100%.
scale. And a friend of mine is a coach who said, "Well, if that's not your core business, raise your prices until you're happy to do it." And I was like, "Oh yeah." So I raised my prices, and they keep hiring me. So I guess I'll coach more. But it's for anyone out there who's like, "How do I find clients? How do I sell? Whatever." Adopt that mindset. Find what you're really good at. Find where you deliver value, and it could be a pinpoint thing. I mean, my first thing that started paying me was I make introductions for people who have high 6, 7-figure, 8-figure businesses who can monetize an introduction into 5 figures. Very small market, but I don't need a lot of them because my retainer's pretty respectable. And so I'd talk to people, but I never wanted someone who I had to close, because if I'm overcoming objections, you're making promises. Every time you overcome an objection, you're making a promise. And I never want someone to come back to me and say, like, "Well, you promised." I'm like, I promise to make introductions. It's up to you to do something with them.
Right.
So I just explain, here's what I do. I meet with 20 people a week. I'm going to sift through them. You're going on the whiteboard of clients. And I'm going to introduce you to the ones of the people I meet that you should meet, so you don't have to spend your time networking. And what you do with them is up to you. So if you don't make any money off my introductions, I made them. I brought you people. So
Right.
anyone who's like, oh, I don't know about that. Well, it's probably because you can't get value out of what I deliver, and that's fine. It means you shouldn't, in the same way that I would not get value out of a perm. You may not get value out of the introductions, and that's fine. Don't hire me.
Right.
I'll still connect as a friend. You're looking for people for your podcast. You're looking for whatever. Sure, I'll send you a couple people here and there. Keep some connections going. But it's very selective, and the right people will be attracted by the message and say, how do I hire you?
Right. 100%. Well, it is. I want to ask you a question about the neurodiversity as well, but it is the summer reading series. So I would love for you, before we switch gears to that, to tell everybody what they can find in your book, The Guy Who Knows a Guy.
What can they find in the book?
Yes.
I don't remember what's in my book. Let's see. What's in the book?
That's what Shiraz said the other day too.
Yeah, I need to keep looking it up because I'm writing my signature speech. My coach was saying at the end, when you say go get my book, you're going to want to tell them what's in the book. And I'm like, what's in my book? I don't even know. Oh, look, it's still all the same stuff to my speech. Look at that.
I know you talk about EB.
yeah. So I talk about the networker attitude, that idea of you can be a connector when you decide to become a connector. I talk a bit about how to navigate networking events. So if you go to networking events and think they all know each other, there's a chapter called Navigating the Networking Event, or No, They Don't All Know Each Other. We talk about how to approach people who are big and important in the chapter of They're Just People, because crazy thing, I have met quite a few millionaires. I don't think I've met any billionaires, but definitely many multimillionaires. And sometimes I'll get off the call and kind of do the math and say, oh, that person's a multimillionaire. Didn't notice, because they're all just people.
Right.
So I talk about that. How about relationship selling? So selling that's not the, hey, Jessica, I'd love to come talk to you about the product we have because you're going to love it. More about the, hey, let's grab a cup of coffee and see how we can help each other.
Yeah.
I talk a bit about that. There is also a chapter in that called Getting a Job with Networking Without a Network. So if you have been struggling to get a job, you can skip right ahead to chapter 13, and it's all the entire plan is there. And you have to follow it. I had someone who I shared this advice with. You were talking about the advice. Shared the advice with him, and he says, I need help, not homework. And I said, listen, when my clients hire me for $1,000 a month, you know what they pay me to do? Give them homework.
Yeah.
And I just gave you the homework I give my clients. Now, what you're not getting is accountability, because that's what they really pay for. But I just gave you the assignment I'd give someone who paid me. So do the homework.
This is good. This could be a whole other episode, and I'm trying real hard not to get on the pedestal right now. But I mean, I love the book because it all is networking. It all goes together. But like you said, each chapter is also very individual. So depending on what you're working on at the moment, as far as networking, you can literally just go to that chapter and work on that as well.
Yep. And the whole book's 100 pages with the bonuses.
Yeah.
The original book was 76 pages. So you can. It is readable in one sitting if you have a comfortable chair. Yeah.
And you can get it at guywhoknowsaguy.com. That's also the website where you can learn more about Michael, what he does, all of that good stuff as well. I know that recently you've been talking more and more about neurodiversity. Why has that been something that you've been talking more about, and how does that tie into the networking stuff that you do?
That is a great question. And briefly, you mentioned they can get the book at the website, but they can actually get the ebook for free at the website.
Oh, so, look at hey!
And I don't think it even says that. It's like a secret gift, but you hear it when I'm on podcasts. At the top, it asks you to sign up to get the Power 5 networking tips, but you will also get the ebook in that same email. So if you want the physical book, you can buy that on Amazon. If you want the ebook, you can get it there. And if you want the audio book, you can reply to the email you get and say, please send me the audio book, and you'll get that too.
Yeah, I'm showing so when you go here, here's the you put your information in here to get the networking tips, and you'll get the book. That's what he's saying.
That's the surprise.
It's a secret.
Yeah, the secret. Now you know it. So, but to answer your other question about the neurodiversity, so this started when I had Dan Mangena on my podcast about a year ago, and Dan Mangena is the money mindset coach. He hangs out with Richard Branson periodically. It's just this guy. He invests in like oil rigs and stuff.
Yeah.
Normal stuff. So I asked him on the podcast, I said, what makes you awesome?
Mm.
And after a bit of modest demurring, he said, well, I guess what makes me awesome is my Asperger's. And I said, say again? And he said, well, because of the way my brain is structured, I can systematize anything and understand any system. And because of that, I can look at a thing and see, where is the business opportunity? How would it work?
Right.
What do we need to invest? Does this business plan work? Those kinds of things. Now, the downside was, for the longest time, people kept taking him for a ride. And, he made and lost millions twice before he was diagnosed because he couldn't do that. Like, he couldn't read the people. They'd be lying to him. He wouldn't understand it. Regulations are basically humans in paper form, so he didn't understand them. So he ran afoul of regulations once, lost all the money. Ran afoul of the people once, lost all the money. But once he was able to dial it in and avoid the kryptonite, he had the superpower and was able to do amazing things. And he is now very successful and does amazing mindset work. I've just working with him, I've experienced some amazing mindset shifts. It's been really great. But so I thought about it. And I said, well, so that's his superpower. And then I started meeting other people, and I realized, that would seem like a disability. Like, for example, Frank King, who has persistent suicidal ideation. I don't think that's the official name for it, but basically thoughts of suicide are constantly in his head, which sounds pretty debilitating.
Right.
But the way he's used it is because suicide is always on the agenda. Most people are like, oh, what if I do that and I fail? He's like, I guess I'll just kill myself. Which, I'm saying it so flippantly because that's how he talks about it. He's got TED Talk about it. But when you think about it, when you have nothing to lose, you can do anything. You can quit your job and start a business. You can travel the country. He was a touring comedian for like 2 or 3 years without a home, just like traveling from gig to gig to gig, because what's the worst that'll happen? And so I started meeting more and more of these people who are successful because of, not in spite of, their neurotype. I wrote a couple articles about it. I got really, people like, ooh, they saw this, because you usually hear about this as a disability. Even the people who are trying to be supportive, their message, you watch these TED Talks, the message is like, the life is so hard, and couldn't you find it in your heart to just accommodate them just a little bit to make their life a little bit easier? Meanwhile, I'm looking at people who are millionaires because of how they're using their unique brains.
Right.
And I'm thinking, it's not about accommodating your neurodiverse employees because it's to be nice or inclusive or whatever, feel good stuff. It's because you're going to make more money.
Right.
If you got Superman on your team, don't put him next to the kryptonite storage facility. Move him to the other side of the building so he can be Superman. If you've got someone who's amazing at doing the work but has no capacity for dealing with people, then don't make them go to meetings. Just let them do the work. They'll work harder, they'll work longer. And then, of course, slowly I dawn on things sometimes. And what I slowly dawned on was, wait a minute, all these other people, their neurodiversity is a superpower. Maybe mine is not actually a disability. Because for 20 years, I couldn't keep a job. I didn't have the attention span to go through the job search process. So all my jobs were sales jobs that I could walk into and be like, I'd like to sell something. I didn't have the attention span for follow-up. I didn't have the attention span for building deep relationships. Like, all these negatives came, and I'm like, I'm kind of a loser and a failure because I got ADHD.
Right.
But then I look back where I am now. One of the things with ADHD I've recently learned is that it's a lack of dopamine receptors. So we need more dopamine to stay engaged in something. And one thing that creates dopamine is new things, like meeting new people or making introductions.
Yep.
So I used to joke, I'm a compulsive networker, and I now realize, that's not a joke. That's literally neurologically true.
It's your drug.
I compulsively have a need to meet new people and make introductions.
Right.
But beyond that, I've got 60 years of experience in 20 years. Most people get a job. When do you learn the most in the job? In the first 3 months.
Right.
Well, if you bounce from job to job to job, you learn a little bit about the car industry, and a little bit about the printing industry, and a little bit about insurance, a little bit about finance, a little bit about real estate. I I don't join one nonprofit and dive into it. I join 4.
Right.
And then I end up on leadership of all of them. And the asset I've always brought is because I'm in leadership of all of them, I don't have time, but they say, oh, we're doing this event, but online ticketing would be great, but it's so complicated. I don't know how to do it. And I'm like, oh, you do it this way. In fact, hold on. Let me pull my phone out. I set it up. It's done. They're like, well, you're a wizard. I'm like, no, I went to Ticket Leap and I set up an account. But nobody in the group knew how to do it because they were just in Rotary and not anything else. Whereas I did all these different things. I could draw it all together. And of course, this was all just a bunch of value floating in the wind for 2 decades until I drew it together into a business. And now I know a little bit about almost anything. Like you throw out a topic, I probably can I can say enough sentences so you can say, oh, you do know something about that. I probably have one piece of advice on literally almost any topic you can think of because that's an ADHD thing. I bounce from here to there and everywhere.
Right.
And the fact that I'm enough of a networker that someone could pay me for the benefit of skimming off my network and the people I meet. And this is not like I have a massive Rolodex and database and like, well, let me go to my database and find the people you're looking for. I can't do that. I found that because some people have tried to hire me to work on like a joint venture launch. Say, okay, we need to get 100 partners. I'm like, good for you. Let me know how that turns out. I can get you 1 every 2 weeks. And if I work with you for a year, then I can get you 20, 30, 40, 80. But I don't have a database to just go pull them from. That's an organization thing. That's the opposite of my neurotype. But I'm going to go meet all kinds of people that you'd never connect with. And over time, you're going to build those deeper relationships with the people I'm sending. The key thing was, 1, removing the stigma, guilt, shame of what I can't do. And then once you do that, it makes space for the superpower that's left.
Right.
Because you only need to be good at one thing to be successful.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what the one thing is. If you are really great at one thing and then figure out who can pay for it and then get them to pay for it, that's the whole recipe. If you're really good at underwater basket weaving and nothing else, you need to find someone with money who wants baskets.
That's it. That's it. I love it though. I mean, I'm so glad that you've had that, your own mindset shift where is concerned. And it's something that, I mean, I think I put together for myself about 10 years ago, because I also have ADHD and it was always taught to me as like, well, they gave me extra time on my tests when I went to college and, all of these different things because I needed help. I needed those.
I always found that hilarious because I do tested half the time. They're like, extra time? What do I need extra time for? That's like you need a step stool. I'm 6'1". I don't need
I know. But so like, I always saw it as like something that, like you said, that needed to be accommodated for rather than it would be so simple if we just switch to let's build up people for what they are good at and allow them to thrive in that area. And then, it's amazing. We want everybody.
Well, I'll touch on that. So you do still need to accommodate it because there are still, it's a trade-off. It's min-maxing. Better at some things, worse at others. I need a much more comprehensive organization system than most people do. If I don't calendarize everything, keep to-do lists, then I'm lost and wandering. Just like, in Dan's story, if he didn't learn the adaptive strategies, he would make money and lose it. So you do need to do that, but shift the narrative to you have something great that we need to discover. We're going to train you how to get around the challenges, which you definitely know you have because they're right in your face.
Right.
But the end game is find your superpowers and find where you can thrive, which may not be what you expect. Some people with autism are bad at math. Some people with ADHD aren't creative. But everyone's got a superpower. So
I love it. It's all right. We want everybody to go visit guywhoknowsaguy.com. We already learned the secret, which is to put in your information and you get a copy of the book as well, The Guy Who Knows a Guy. What else can they find on your website, Michael?
So also, I don't remember what's on my site. So right there at the top of the site, there's that. There's also a link to my Friday open virtual coffee, which actually is an hour and 9 minutes from now, because I'm the guy who knows guy. People want to meet with me. My calendar filled up. So as a pressure valve, I'm like, why don't I just open a Zoom room for an hour? Anyone can drop in. That way I can meet. I never want to say no to people. I reach out to some people for a one-to-one and they're like, oh, I don't have time to do those kinds of open discovery calls anymore. So we don't meet. Well, now they haven't met me. which I think are pretty cool to meet, and they missed out. So I never wanted to be the one missing out. So I created the Open Virtual Coffee. So anyone can drop in there. And it's not like a networking group. It really is a place to meet. But you want to get on a Zoom call with me, you go to that website, click on the Open Virtual Coffee, drop in any Friday at 10, and you'll meet me and whoever else happened to wander by. There is also a link there for if you heard about the Networking Concierge and say, I can monetize connections if I had more of them, and I'd like to hire him to send them to me. Well, there is a button there, and that will get you on my calendar, at which I will explain to you what it's about and tell you, well, I'll explain to you what it's about. See if you're someone who makes sense for me to work with, because my network is broad and in certain areas. I have no connections to Hollywood celebrities. I have no connections to DC politicians. If you need military contacts, I don't have them. My connections are in the entrepreneurial space. But if you're looking to make those kinds of connections and want to learn more about my service and think it might be valuable, you can get on my calendar through the website there. And then, of course, you also find my blog and my podcast and my other podcast and my other podcast and my other podcast.
That sounds very familiar to me.
Well, 2 of them are 5 minutes each, so I can batch record them. I have a morning motivation podcast and a Power 5 business answers podcast. So you can listen to, I record them all in, I think, an hour and 20 minutes. So you can listen to them in an hour and 20 minutes a week.
Nice. Very good. Well, I'm glad that we finally got to meet up and have you on the show this morning. So I appreciate you being here, and excited that, sooner than later here we'll get to meet in person, and we'll have a coffee down at whatever's, I don't know what's booming in Groton now for coffee.
The Social's the new local place.
The Social.
I don't know if it's booming, but it's local and it's often empty. So it's a great place to meet.
I am writing it down. The Social. Okay, I'm excited. And I need to go. I've heard from many people that I need to go to Deviant Donuts in Mystic.
If you like sugar.
Yeah.
Then
Sugar's
it's sugar with some donuts.
It is. Thanks so much for being here this morning, Michael. I appreciate you. Make sure you guys go visit guywhoknowsaguy.com, and I appreciate it, Michael. Yes. Oh, it's right there. Yes.
They're right there. Yeah.
But there. Thanks Michael. I appreciate you. Absolutely. All right, you guys, we're going to take a quick break and be right back after this. Don't go anywhere.
Imagine a world where every child gets a great education. Educating all children is the only way to end poverty. This is what the Weiss Scholarship Foundation is working to accomplish. Our 6 staff members, our mentors and coordinators, who are on the ground in Kenya, are totally engaged in every aspect of our students' lives, so we can give them every opportunity for success. In just a few short years, we have already awarded 141 scholarships. We send children to high school who would have never gone without our support. And then we help them go on to either university or vocational school. We have already scaled our holistic business model to 4 locations and are ready to scale it to many more. Today it's Kenya, but tomorrow it's more countries. Please contribute what you can today. You can make a one-time donation, a recurring donation, or choose to sponsor a child all on your own for all 4 years of high school for just $3,500. Go to our website, www.weissscholarshipfoundation.org.
Welcome back to Project Joy Live. I'm your host, Jessica Dugas. Today is Friday, June 24th, 2022. I want to remind you guys to go visit Michael Whitehouse at guywhoknowsaguy.com. Go check it out. Get your book, get your tips, and connect with Michael because he's amazing. So I am thrilled to be here with you today. And of course, we have birthdays to celebrate this morning, which I'm thrilled about. Mindy McKnight has a birthday today. She's another YouTube creator. You guys might know her from Cute Girls Hairstyles. They have children, then they adopted children, and she made her living doing hair. I mean, I followed her back years ago, learning how to do like intricate braids with my girl's hair. And then now she has a whole hairline, Heritage. It's in Walmart's, and my daughters love them. They're amazing, plant-based, really good ingredients, etc. So Mindy McKnight, happy birthday to you. Also, Beyonce's sister, Solange Knowles' birthday is today in the celebrity world. In the celebrities in my life, David Thomas's birthday is today, as well as David Taylor. So happy birthday to all of you. I also want to tell you, I forgot to mention before when we were talking about national days, It is also National Take Back the Lunch Break Day. Now, again, this may be more suited to you if you're in the office. Look, my husband's worked for several places who they don't even let them take a lunch. This is what this day is about, is telling people, look, lunch is a good thing. Taking breaks are a good thing. But sometimes as entrepreneurs, we need to be reminded to stand up, step away from the computer, take a break, rest your eyes a little bit and everything else. And so take that lunch break. So today you can take a lunch break. You can set a reminder on your phone telling you to take lunch, get a buddy and go to lunch together. Why not? Especially if you're an entrepreneur. Look, you are the boss of you. Take a lunch, take somebody with you and go have something amazing to eat. So just remember that today. It is Take Back Lunch Break Day, June 24th. So remember to do that. Okay, so let's celebrate our birthdays. Here we go. Drum roll, please. Everybody get ready to sing. Here we go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Mindy McKnight, Solange Knowles, David Taylor, and David Thomas. Happy birthday to you. Yes. Happy birthday to everybody who's celebrating today. I hope you guys have an amazing weekend. Let me know if you have anything joyful going on. I will go back and check comments and stuff after as well. I'm excited I get to meet with my other hosts from the Breakthrough Show Network tonight to get our planning on in our regular host meeting for our upcoming birthday celebration. So that's bringing me a lot of joy as well. Rosemary said, thanks for sharing some inspiration and insights. Michael, thank you, Rosemary, for being here. I appreciate you. And Mandy said, I need a sit by the ocean alone break. Me too, girlfriend. And that is happening in 3 weeks, I assure you. I will be on my rock at Eastern Point Beach. It's happening. Okay. And it may not have my name on it, but it is in fact my rock. Just anybody needed to know that. But I love you guys so much. Thank you for being here with us this week. Next week on the show, by the way, you guys, we're doing a little bit of an overview on Monday of our summer reading series. And I have some honorable mentions for you guys, people that are authors that I think are amazing. And I would love to shout them out on Monday. So stay tuned for that. Then we have Brett Weiss joining us on Tuesday, talk about his trip back to Kenya and seeing Olivia Ambani and all that good stuff. I've got an incredible guest on Thursday, you guys. He's the host of Bathrobe Moments, an incredible morning show. I'm inviting the morning folks on to the show that next week, but he is super excited to be here. Loren Michael Harris is going to be here on Thursday as well. So you're not going to want to miss that, amongst other things. And of course, all of our other shows on the network as well. I'm your host, Jessica Dugas, and I want to remind you to make joy a priority in your life today and every day. And I'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.
You've been tuned in to Project Joy Live with Jessica Dugas, your weekday morning talk show, inviting you to start your day with a triple shot of good vibes only on the Breakthrough Show Network. Binge all past episodes of Project Joy at projectjoypodcast.com. Until next time, help us spread the joy by sharing this episode, and we'll see you soon.